Hi creatives, I am Dima and you're welcome to another interesting sewing tutorial. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how to cut and sew this crop top with turtleneck and of course bell sleeve. Yes, bell sleeve but with elastic at the hem of the sleeve. This tutorial covers the cutting and the sewing of this beautiful top. If it sounds like what you're interested in, knowing how I did it, then you have to stick around till the end. If you've not subscribed to my channel, do well to do so. Here on the channel, I share lots of sewing tutorial videos that you would definitely be learning from. So to draft this top, I have to start with drafting the basic pattern, okay? So I ruled a line at the beginning of the paper and had to take the basic neckline of 3 by 3. So after taking those points, I have to use my armhole curve to connect it. As you can see, here is the shoulder measurement divided by 2. I marked it at 2 points and then I connected with a vertical line like this. So I dropped the shoulder slope by 1 inch and I had to connect to the neckline. So after that, I have to go ahead and take the bust level, just as you can see, and of course the front half length. So those are the 2 points I took and I had to take it as another position, bust level and then front length, okay, front half length. So I had to rule my horizontal lines across those 2 points. Now the next is on the bust. I quickly measured 3.5 inches from the bust point level and I ruled another vertical line. Okay, do well to measure your clients on the bust level. Okay, you can measure from the shoulder or from the bust point to the on the bust. So the next thing here is just to go ahead and label the points. So here is the waist measurement. But what I did here is to drop by 1 inch and ensure this at bust to bust. Bust to bust for my client here is 7. So what I took here is 3.5 because this is more like half of the pattern. Okay. So here is the position of the on the bust. So this way you take 3/4 inch and this other way you take 1/4 inch from the dart leg. You can see that I've already drawn the dart leg. So connect this to the waistline just as you can see, then you connect to the bust point as you can see me do so. Aside what I am saying, pay close attention to what I'm doing and you will understand everything I did to achieve this. So after this, the next thing I am going to do is to go ahead and measure the bust. So you're going to take bust measurement divided by 4. If your bust is 40, you're going to divide by 4 and that will give 10. Okay, so I had to go ahead and rule the vertical line on those points. So here is the waist measurement divided by 4 plus that intake. That intake here is 1/1/4 inches. Okay, it's actually 1, but because of the increase caused by the underbust tightening on that leg, yes, it increased the dart by quarter, so that is why it's 1/1/4. So here is the difference between the front half length and the back half length. That is what forms the side bust dart. I dropped by 5 inches and then I had to go in by 3/4. That is what I used to draw my armhole measurement divided by 2, and that is what I measured there, and I'm using my armhole curve to connect. So after connecting, this is what I have, and I'm going to draw the princess line. So the next thing is to measure half of the armhole and mark. Then you measure 1 inch from there and mark. Then connect from any of those points. Yes. So when you connect like this, you can see what I did. Connected and it's touching the armhole. Then I had to go to the second point and then connect to the bust point as well. But this second time, I had to increase that line by 1 inch. Yes, that is what I marked with my tape right now, and I will connect back to the armhole just as you can see me do. Where I am shedding will be going off at the end of this tutorial. So this is what I have. I had to go in here slightly by about 3/8 inch. Okay, I also had to come down here by about 1/4 inch because I don't want the turtleneck to be right on the neck. That is all I did. Okay, just a little increase on the neckline. So this is how I drew that, and yeah, that is it for the front, and I had to label it front. So the next thing to do is to go ahead and cut out this pattern. So watch closely to see what I did. I had to label bust, which is the bust point, on the bust, and every other thing I needed to label. Okay, these are the main ones. So right now I'll go ahead and draw the pattern or draft the pattern for the back. So the first thing to do is to draw that line, just as you can see, and from there I measured the back half length, just as you can see, on 2 points. Okay, so I'll measure the back half length. This is the half length. While cutting on fabric, I'll take the actual length I want the top to be. So go ahead and draw your line like that. And here is the neck, which is 3 by half. That is what I used for the back, 3 by half inch. So I connected just as you can see me do. Now the next I would do is to measure the shoulder divided by 2. So mark this at 2 points and go ahead and connect these 2 points with your straight ruler. So after that, I'll drop the shoulder slope by 1 inch and I connected to the neckline, just as you can see. And after that, I had to increase this slightly by 3/8, just as I did for the front, but I left the drop of the neck the same, half inch. I did not increase the drop. So here is bust measurement divided by 4, and I marked 2 points and connected with a vertical line. So after that, I dropped by 5 inches and came in by half, and then I drew my armhole, half of my armhole measurement, and I marked. After marking, I used my armhole curve rule to connect these points. And this is the beautiful armhole we have. So here is the back tightening of half inch. And from there, I measured waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch that intake. So that is all I did, and I connected to the rest of the bust measurement. So here I also connected at the center back like this. So after this is what I have, and I will go ahead and reassure that my measurements are accurate. That is all I'm doing here. So I'm now marking the middle of this point. I'm marked half inch on both sides, just to show you how to mark the darts. Okay, ensure that the point here matches exactly with the middle of the dart, so that your dart will be well aligned. So that is what I did here, and yeah, this is how you're going to be stitching your dart. So do well to mark it on fabric using this. Okay, if you cannot take it straight on your fabric, but I like taking mine straight, and you'll see the process as we progress in this tutorial. So after all of that, I'm going to cut out this pattern. I'm going to separate this pattern into parts, just as you can see. So here is the front, and I've closed the side bust dart, just as you can see, and every shaded part I have cut it off. So after that, you can see what I have for the front and what I have for the back. So the next is to cut it on fabric. So this is the fabric I'll be using for this tutorial. This is the fabric I'll be using. Is in 2 yards. 2 yards is enough for this pattern, for this top. Yes. So I have cut it already off camera, and this is me showing you what the pattern looks like. You can see that I have added some inches on the hem of the dress. I added about 3 inches to the hem of the dress, yes, because I don't want it to be crop like on the level of the half length. So I added 3 inches to the crop. So you can see where I added the wording, okay, about 2 inches from where this princess cut is, or where the armhole is. That is where I added my wording. You can also see that I give about 3 inches here as well, and you can see what the wording looks like. On the side, it ended on the bust. You can see the curve. I'll put the link in the description where I cut all of this pattern for princess that bustier, okay, just in case you don't know how to cut your wording for princess that. Okay, I'll put the link in the description box. So right here is the back, and you can see that I added about 3 inches as well for the back, and I applied my hasty as well. On the neckline, I applied paper gum. For the lining of the front, you can see the paper gum on the neckline, and you can see the wording on the lining. Yes, my girl helps me to do this. The shape of that paper gum on the neckline, ah, hmm, is you can make it to look really, better, right? Though it will not be seen. So my girl helps me iron that down, right? So right here you can see what we have on the neckline as well. You can see how I applied my hairstay, wording, and of course the paper gum. So this is how I'll be joining this front. Okay, I'll hold it down like this and join it all through, following the notches here, because I've put the notches for underbust, bust points, and all of that to ensure that those points match really nicely. So you can see how I Have done this. I've stitched it, notched, ironed it open, and even used hairspray to stick down the bust line as I iron, just as you can see in this video. So this is the back, and I've gone ahead to stitch the darts, just as you can see. So I've also stitched the front. You can see what it looks like. So I had to trim off, the excess of that paper gum on the neckline. Yeah. So you can see what the paper gum on the neckline of the back looks like. So you're going to join the back separately on the shoulder like this, and also join the front on the shoulder as well. So this is a sewing technique you must pay attention to if you want to get a really nice result. So after joining it, the next thing to do is to go ahead and iron. Okay. So after ironing, you will continue the whole process of putting it together. So you can see what the top looks like now. It looks really nice. So you can see that it looks really nice, and see how I am, cutting off this excess here. But before you do this, ensure that the measurement is rhyming perfectly with your client's measurement. Please, it's very, very important. Okay, though I did not trim it to all of the seam allowance. I gave like 3/8 inch before I cut it off. Okay, so even if you need to expand it, there is still space to expand. So I did the same thing on the lining, just as you can see, and yeah, this is what I have. I had to put my notch to be more visible because I want to reduce the length of this lining. Yes, so what you do is to reduce the length of your lining by about 3/4 inch. So the essence is to ensure that the lining does not, pass the length of the main fabric. It will just be really neat and smooth at the hem of the top. So that is the essence. So after all of that, I ironed the seam allowance open, as you can see, and I also ironed the seam allowance open. For this lining, everything is looking nice. So I'm going to stitch down the hem of this cloth. You can pin it down before stitching. All I did here was to, use my chalk to make the zipper allowance more visible, because after stitching this, I'm not going to see the zipper allowance. So I've stitched this down, and all I'm doing here is to notch. So you use your scissors and notch down all through, and then you're going to top stitch. Push the excess to the lining part and top stitch, and then you iron. So after ironing, this is what I got, and it's looking really nice at this stage. And you can see how I ironed the shoulder open. Yes, I ironed it open both for the lining and the fabric. So after ironing it open, I'm going to place it really nicely together. I'm going to ensure that the lining and the fabric are matching really nicely. Very important. So push in your cups and make sure you form it really well, so that you see exactly the way it is. But before we continue with that, I'm going to stitch down the zipper. So this is how you're going to stitch the zipper down on just the fabric. And after that, you're going to turn it with the lining. I will show you the process. So the aim is to get the zipper to be between the lining and the fabric. So here you can see that I've stitched it on the main fabric and not on the lining. So I'm going to use this lining and turn over the main fabric. So that's the essence of this. So right here I have turned it over, just as you can see, and I will go ahead and stitch it down. So here I've stitched it down, and you can see how neat everything is looking. Everything is looking so nice already. You can even wear the inside, trust me, don't mind me, but it's so neat. So after that, you can see what I have. So at this stage, we are supposed to, cut the excess on the neck, but not until we have finished everything we are supposed to do. Yeah. So watch closely to see what I'm doing. I will go ahead and more like make sure that the lining is fitting perfectly on, like, inside the main fabric. Make sure there is no excess anywhere. It's so, so important. If you do not match this seriously well, you can use pins. So if you don't match it seriously well, you may make a mistake. Okay, it's not good for the lining to be smaller than the fabric on any point. Ensure everything is aligning well before you trim everything that you saw me trim here. So after that, I trimmed the excess of the button. I also trimmed excess lining on this neckline, because yes, there was excess on that neckline. So I had to zip to a particular extent and then stopped. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to cut away this. So I'm going to remove some of the zipper teeth, the part that I do not need. Yes, this part that is going to enter inside the tutu neck. I basically do not need them, so I will be going ahead to, do the needful. I will remove all of that. Okay. So I'll remove all of that. At this stage, move the you can go to the timestamp and choose exactly where you want to watch, because I'll be covering both the turtleneck and the bell sleeve in this tutorial. So here I'm measuring the neck right now. I measured round the neck. You can see how I removed those zipper teeth. So it's not hard, but it's really what you have to gradually learn how it is done. But it's not hard. You can see how I did it. Do yours exactly like that and you'll be fine. So here I folded the sleeve. I want to do the sleeve before I do the turtleneck. So you can see how I folded the fabric once and then twice. So I'm going to cut the two sleeves at the same time. So I placed the basic sleeve like this and shifted it, as you can see. So I spread it about 5 inches from the fold. That is what I used. About 5 inches from the fold. Now I measure the length I want. The regular length of the long sleeve is 22, but I made mine to be about 24. So, but here at the beginning of fold, I marked about 24 3/4 because I want it to be a bit longer than the rest of the sleeve. So you can see that it's appearing like a curve on that hem. So the rest, I will cut exactly the way I am seeing it, just with seam allowance. So you can see what I have here already. So yeah, I checked the biceps. I noticed that I have excess of about half inch on that part. So I had to smoothen it down. So you can see that it has already formed the puffy bell sleeve by the time I held it together. So this is what it looks like. Now I am going to go ahead and make the pattern of the turtleneck. To make the pattern of the turtleneck, fold this in triangle like this on bias grain. Measure exactly the half of the turtleneck where you get it, and measure what it gives you from this beginning of the triangle. Then follow the same measurement and mark round, just as you can see me do. Okay. After that, measure the height of your turtleneck from this point. Okay, if you want it to be 1 or 1 1/4 or 1.5, go ahead and measure that, and then you will cut it out. So at this stage, I noticed that I was cutting without seam allowance. Oh, I felt bad though, but then I decided to just continue cutting. Okay, so after cutting, I just had to, remove all of the seam allowance, like the one I just added at the hem of this part. Yes, this part, I had to cut it out and then use this very pattern as the main turtleneck pattern. I hope this makes sense. So I had to place it on fabric and then cut it out with half-inch seam allowance. Okay, this is what I could have done on the paper. Now this is why I like cutting on paper. Okay, so but that's fine, there's no problem. So after cutting it, I had to fold this into two and then cut a second one. Now this one is with the seam allowance of half-inch. I hope this makes sense. So after doing that, this is what it looks like. I have to go ahead and put interfacing. The interfacing I used is paper gum. Yes, that's what I used for this. So this is how I'm going to be placing this. You know that placing it like this is more like cutting it on bias grain. I hope you understand, because if I fold it on triangle, this is exactly where the triangle is going to land. Okay, the essence of doing it like this is so that your turtleneck will retain its form. It will not shift from alignment. I just used my iron to iron it down. Yes, because it has the sticky part, sticky face on it. So after that, I joined this upper part of the turtleneck and notched. So I just trimmed the excess thread there. So this is what I have at the end of the day. I'm going to push towards the lining, the excess towards the lining, and top stitch. So you can see how I folded this part. I hope you can see that. So this is important. I notched the middle of the turtleneck. Watch closely and you'll understand everything I'm doing. So what I did was, from that middle, I measured half of what I got for the neckline. I got a total of about 17. So half of it is eight and a half. So I ensured I got eight and a half. I marked with my chalk. I also got eight and a half this way and then marked with my chalk. Okay, so that is what you're going to do. After that, I had to fold it into two and check exactly my marking whether it is rhyming, and yes, it's rhyming exactly. So I noticed that it is matching, so I had to cut away the excess. So the only allowance remaining now is half here. So I just had to recheck. You can see how I folded it, and I'm going to stitch down that half inch. So after stitching down the half inch, I still had to trim it further. I removed about quarter from that half and removed any excess that is on this part of the upper collar, turtleneck collar. Okay, so after doing that, this is what I have, and I'm going to show you how to fix this. So this is our top, and I had to get it back. So after getting it back, all I did was to cut out any excess that is there so that when I push in, that part is going to be very smooth. So you can see what it looks like. Please do well to iron your turtleneck before you stitch. Okay, this is illustration. I'm definitely going to iron this out. So you can see what I have right here. So you're going to place the middle of the turtleneck like this from the front. This part I'm pinning is the part that is not folded. Okay, so you're going to place it like that and pin down. So I've stitched it down, and then I'm going to stitch down this part and use it to cover the roughness of the neckline, so everything is going to be inside. So take a look at what this turtleneck looks like. Very lovely. Okay, so you can see how gorgeous the turtleneck is. I believe you're enjoying this tutorial. If you are at this stage, do well to like, subscribe, and share. So here I'm pointing, you're going to use your hand needle and thread and just form a knot there. Yeah, just stitch it severally neatly with a matching thread, just to make sure that the zip for no reason will not just continue and go off from there. I hope this makes sense. So at the end of the day, this was what I got, and it was really gorgeous. This is beautiful, trust me. So you can see what the zipper looks like. Just take a look at the inside, looking so neat. So the only thing remaining at this stage is the sleeve, which we have gone ahead to cut, and then I've also gone ahead to cut the lining. So I will just trim away about half inch to 3/4 inch from the hem of this sleeve. Then the next thing is to open up the sleeve like this, and then open up the lining just as you can see me do, and stitch down the hem. So stitch down the hem, notch, and top stitch, and of course iron. So after that, I stitched down again. Okay, I have a line of thread I stitched down so that I can pass elastic through this part. Okay, I hope this makes sense. So I'll go ahead and get my elastic. Ensure that you measure round the wrist of your client. Very important. Okay, because that will be the measurement of your elastic plus 1 inch. So if your client's wrist is, let's say, 8 inches, for instance, you're going to add 1 inch, and that is what you're going to measure 9 inches on the elastic. Okay, I hope this makes sense. So use your safety pin on the elastic. That is what I did, and I'm just using it to pass the elastic thread. I didn't know that it wasn't showing completely at the beginning of this passing of elastic. So after passing it, this is what I have. Ensure to be careful so that your elastic does not go inside. Usually when I pass a bit and it's almost at the edge, I stitch it down and continue passing so that the stitch will hold the elastic down from pulling in. So I had to close up this other side of the sleeve, the inseam part of the sleeve, and this is what I got at the end of the day. So the only thing remaining now is to attach the sleeve to the crop top. So to attach the sleeve to the crop top, you're going to get your crop top and then fix it like this. So this is how you're going to fix it. Watch closely to see how I'm going to be fixing this. So you're going to open up your crop top like this, and this is how you're going to place your sleeve. Okay, when you place it like this, you're going to stitch it down round it. So here I've stitched it down. I've also serged it with a matching thread. So now you can see me zipping up this. I've also knotted the end of the zipper so that nothing will make the zip to pull through. Okay, so after that, this is what I got. Did you enjoy this tutorial? If you did, give me a thumbs up, like, comment, share. Let me know what you think. Just say something about this tutorial. If you have a question, also ask in the comments section. So here on the channel, I share lots of sewing tutorial videos that you will definitely be learning from. If you've not subscribed to my channel, do well to subscribe. Subscribe and you'll not regret it. Here on the channel, I share lots of pattern drafting and sewing tutorial videos that you will definitely be learning from. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for always stopping by to watch my videos. Love you all, and I'll see you in my next one.